Well, welcome to another Friday night. Tonight I want to talk about helping a child that is struggling or training our children as parents, how they can appropriately help other people who are struggling when their friends are struggling. And so struggling is part of life that visits all of us at times. So we struggle in a relationship, with a job, with our mental health, with our physical health, with all kinds of difficult circumstances, with loss. We go through times of grief. We might even have friends that are struggling with addiction. And so helping people who are struggling, if we really care and want to have good relationships, it's important to know how to do it. And what you quickly realize is that there's a healthy support that we can give friends, but there's also a support that we can give friends that's unhealthy. It doesn't really help them. It actually keeps them sick. And it's very easy to cross over from giving healthy support and without realizing it, cross over into giving unhealthy support. That's called crossing over into enabling them to stay stuck in unhealthy behavior. And so it's good at the starting point for people to realize that when they see a friend struggling, they care. The care part is fantastic. But how you express that care in a healthy or unhealthy way is really what the issue is about. So healthy support, to me, there's three main components. And they, in some ways, go against a lot of the conditioning we have within a culture. So the first thing is empathic listening. You cannot truly help a person unless you understand them, unless you understand their circumstances and see them accurately, unless you understand the deeper issues that are driving some of their behaviors. Our culture, we just want to go in and fix the symptoms. We want to go in and just solve the problem. We're a very fix-it culture. But you can't fix correctly something if you haven't first understood it accurately. So we need to hear before we give advice. We need to make sure we understand clearly before we give advice. So healthy support starts with good listening before we're jumping in to try to fix. Secondly, healthy support recognizes that I have limitations and I might not be the right person to support this friend. I might not have the expertise needed to support this friend. So I can listen, but I need to be able to say, you know what, I think you need professional help. Think you need somebody who knows about this area that you should be talking to. So healthy support means I don't have to feel obligated to support and be there for everybody in the way they want me to, because I might not be able to. I might have limitations that I need to accept. Third, and this is what we're going to focus on the most, healthy support only remains healthy if we have good boundaries. So here's what happens. That sometimes people who are looking to us for support will do to try to pull us into unhealthy support. And that's where we need a boundary to say, hey, I will support you in this way, but not in that way. So they might come and they all of a sudden ask for money. Now we might go initially, okay, I've checked out their need. This is legit. I'm going to give them some money with these conditions. And that might be healthy. But if they keep asking for money, they keep showing up, wanting you to give them more money, then you go, they're pulling me now into unhealthy behavior. I'm enabling them to either be irresponsible, to not do healthy things with their spending, etc. So that's where a boundary is needed around money. Then they might ask you to lie for them. Hey, I'm going to get in trouble with my wife if she finds out I was doing this with this other woman. Would you say that I was with you. Or I'm going to lose my job if they find out that the reason I missed work because I was so hungover from the weekend of partying. Could you just lie and say I had the flu? So all of a sudden they're asking you to lie for them. Or they make you their only support. They don't go and get help. They don't have other friends in their life. They come to you with everything. They expect you to carry their load. They expect you to be their only source of advice and support to them. They put it all on you, and they try to make you feel special, that's how important you are to them. But you start feeling burnt out. You start feeling like you're doing more work on their recovery than they are. Then you start to also feel that they keep asking you for advice and you give it, but then they don't follow the advice. So they're advice requesters, but then they reject the advice. They're advice rejectors. And then they start calling on you too much at inappropriate times, at 1 a.m. or 50 times a day. And they just start taking up more and more of your time and resources. And you begin to feel used. You begin to feel this is taking way too much energy. It's pulling away from other responsibilities. It is starting to become all-consuming. So what I want you to see is all of those are pulling your relationship with this person who's struggling in a very unhealthy place that is actually then enabling them to stay stuck in their unhealthy behavior, to not change, and it's making you sicker and sicker. So let me define this enabling thing. This has become a buzzword in the recovery world. Enabling means that you do something for someone that they should be doing for themselves. So they should be accepting responsibility for this area of their life, for meeting this need in their own life, but they're asking you to do it for them, and you're doing it. So you're enabling them to not grow up. You're enabling them to stay emotionally immature, to stay childlike, to stay irresponsible. But then there's a second piece. You take away the natural consequences of their bad decisions. So they have a drunk party and they don't go to work. Now they want you to lie for them to take away the natural consequences, which would be losing their job or losing their marriage or whatever. So they're now wanting you to take away painful consequences, which would be the only thing that would cause them to want to change, that would push them that if I don't change, I'm going to lose everything. But you're taking that away from them, making it, oh, it's okay to keep living this way because there's no bad consequences. My friend keeps taking them away from me. And so enabling looks like it's helping. It looks like you care, but it's actually making things worse. It's enabling them to continue down a road of unhealthy behavior with growing consequences around them that you keep taking away, that's hurting you but not hurting them. That's what enabling is. So let me give you some examples of enabling. So you get this often in complex trauma families where, let's say, dad is pouting, lashing out, being abusive, and mom keeps making excuses for dad. Oh, he's just stressed out from work. He can't help it. It's really not his fault. Or they lie to cover up behavior. So they phone the boss and say, dad can't come into work today because he's really got the flu and he really doesn't. And so they're lying to cover up their behavior, making excuses for behavior. Or we talked about giving money that ends up supporting an addiction, rescuing them from legal trouble, rescuing them from losing their job. So you go in and you bargain for them, you pay their bills, you take responsibility to take care of their kids because they're just too messed up to do so. You do all kinds of things like this for them. And what you need to realize is that often your motivation, you want to tell yourself it's because you care. But really, your deep motivation is you're afraid that they're going to get angry at you. You feel guilty for some reason in the relationship. So there's other motivations that are more powerful than love that are driving this. There's still a love piece there, but there's other things that are more powerful. So what are that? Well, that love is, I want to protect this person. I don't want bad stuff to happen to them. None of us wants that. But that's short-sighted sometimes. The fear piece is, for many people, I don't want to confront them because then they'll get angry at me and I'm afraid of angry people. Or they won't like me anymore and I need people to like me. Or they might abandon me and just quit the relationship and I'm afraid of being abandonment. Or if I stop helping them, they might do something terrible. So fear is this massive thing that is actually motivating it. But guilt, that maybe I'm responsible. Maybe it's because I said those things or did this that has hurt them and caused them to do this. Maybe it's all my fault. So it's that all or nothing thinking that if I've got a little bit of guilt, then I have to take full responsibility for their behavior. Or it's shame. What will people think of me if this relationship falls apart or if they see how bad a parent I was? What will the gossip be in the neighborhood? What will they think of my child? So shame can be a massive thing as well. But for many people, it's control. I need to control their behavior. Because if I can control their behavior, if I can do that, then I can make them turn out well. I can get them to stop. I can change them. There's a belief that if I can just somehow gain control, this will be fixed. So somebody has put the difference between healthy helping and enabling. So healthy helping always encourages the other person in becoming responsible. Enabling shields the person from being responsible and shields the person from the consequences of being irresponsible. So they both look the same, helping and enabling, but man, they're totally different when it comes to responsibility and consequences. Healthy healing supports recovery and pushes for change. Enabling, actually, you might nag and try to pressure the person to change, but you keep taking the consequences away. You keep doing stuff for them that they should do yourself. So you actually are maintaining the status quo. Healthy helping always will have clear boundaries. I'll do this for you, but not that. Enabling, there's a blurring of boundaries. There's no boundaries. I will do whatever it is to try to keep you happy, to keep you liking me, to keep you from getting angry. So healthy helping is comfortable with not being comfortable. They're going to be mad at me. They're not going to like me. They're going to pout. They're going to lash out. There's going to be tension in the house. I don't like that this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm willing to do it because I know it's healthy. Whereas enabling is, I can't stand uncomfortable. I must be comfortable. So I will do whatever necessary in the short term to make them happy so that I'm comfortable. And that ends up being super unhealthy. So another way to say that is enabling unhealthy support is also known as caretaking. Healthy support is known as caregiving. So caretaking, it looks on the surface that you really care about this person, but usually you're trying to control the person through being nice. You're trying to manage their emotions, manage their problems, but it ultimately is about making you feel better and it prevents their growth. So it's very much a limbic brain approach. I am focused on short-term solutions to make them happy and to make me feel better. I am not thinking long-term, what's best for them. I'm only thinking very short-term. And that is caretaking. So you become over-involved. Whereas caregiving, which is healthy, is I will support you without losing myself. So I will have empathy, but I'm going to have boundaries. And I'm going to require mutual respect and clear responsibility. I know where I end and you begin. I will not do for you what you should be doing for yourself. I won't do your recovery work for you. Even though you don't want to do it, even though it's hard work, even though it's painful at times, I'm not going to make it easier for you. I don't want to be responsible to do for you what you should be doing for yourself, because that is keeping you immature. It is preventing you from growing up. So caregiving versus caretaking. Caregiving is healthy and supportive. Caretaking is unhealthy and enabling. Caregiving respects boundaries. Caretaking crosses boundaries. Caregiving is driven by love but requires choice. Caretaking is driven by guilt, fear, or control. Caregiving helps without taking over. Caretaking takes responsibility for others' emotions, problems, and decisions. It takes over. Caregiving encourages independence. Caretaking creates or maintains dependency on you. Again, they look the same on the surface, but they are driven from totally different places. So, caregiving, what's the motivation? Love and respect. Caretaking, what's the motivation? Guilt, fear, or the need to control. Caregiving, what's the focus? To support the other person. Caretaking, what's the focus? To fix or save the other person. Boundaries. In caregiving, I respect boundaries. I require boundaries. In caretaking, ignore boundaries. Caregiving, what's the emotional impact? I have clear boundaries to protect myself. I don't do more than I should do. I require them to do so I can sustain my energy levels, my emotional health. Caretaking, it drains you. It's one-sided. You're doing all the giving, they're doing the taking. You are getting burnt out. And so what's the outcome of caregiving? It promotes growth and autonomy. Caretaking creates dependence and burnout. So those are so important for people to understand. Now, because this is such a big and important topic, let me just go through a couple more things here on caretaking. So what are some of the signs that you have slid into caretaking? So many people start with, again, healthy care and some healthy care giving, but they slide into caretaking. So number one, you feel responsible for someone else's feelings and failures. You don't go, hey, that was their choice. That's on them. Or you do things for others that they can and should be doing for themselves. You start feeling resentful and burnt out, but you keep doing it, but you're resentful. So you're complaining all the time, but you're not willing to change. You have difficulty saying no. And you use care to avoid conflict or rejection. So basically, you jump into care so they won't get mad at you. So you won't have a big fight. So that's the framework for supporting somebody else. But now I need to take this to the next level. What happens if you're supporting somebody who's in addiction? Somebody who's making very harmful decisions that are hurting themselves and those they love. So addiction, and that can be drug and alcohol addiction, or that can be process addictions, gambling, sex addiction, or it can be cutting, eating disorders, all of those things where you just watch this person you love making decisions that are really hurting them or destroying their life. How do you support them? So let me tell you a story from early in my experience in this field. So after I came out of my sickness and got out into this field, so I came out of my 7 very difficult years, got asked to come into this field, realized that all my life experiences had been preparing me for this, and I started working in this field. I started a Friday night, which is now what you're getting here on YouTube, that was just making all of this information open to the public. And so we had in-person meetings, and people would come and I would teach, and that was the Friday night. So I had friends who had been very supportive of me while I was sick, and they started coming to the Friday nights to support me. And one day they came to me and told me that they just found out their daughter was an alcoholic. And she was in her late teens at that time. But what was the really difficult part is when she would get really drunk, she would go on to one of the highest bridges in our city, and she would phone her parents, and then she would threaten to jump off the bridge and kill herself if they didn't come and give her money and take care of her. And every time they ran, drove down to that bridge, got her off the bridge, gave her money, took care of her. A little while later, they came to me and they were really mad. They were looking for supports. They were looking for helps. So they had sent their daughter to a treatment center, which hadn't worked. Then they heard that that treatment center had a program for parents. So they thought they'd take the program for parents, thinking that it would give them some magical tools to fix their daughter. But when they went to this program, they didn't like the advice that was given, because when they explained what was happening in their relationship with their daughter, the leaders of the program basically said, you're part of the problem. You are enabling your daughter to continue in her addiction. Every time you run and take care of her and give her money, you're taking away her consequences. And so they came to me and they were so offended. And they went on and on about they did this because they loved their daughter so much. They only wanted to help her. They did not want her to kill herself. They could not live with that on their conscience. They had to rescue her each time because they loved her. And so they stopped going to that program. But thankfully, they kept coming to the Friday nights. And over the next couple of years, they continued to learn. They continued to do their own growth and work. Their daughter continued what she was doing. But finally, one day they came and they said, we've made a decision. We realized that our fear of our daughter killing herself, which is a powerful fear, is causing us to be manipulated and run and do stuff that's actually keeping her in her addiction. And yes, we are part of the problem. So we are not going to do that anymore. We're going to have to trust her to God, the universe, whatever, but we can't keep playing this game. This is going to be one of the hardest things for us to do, but we have to do it. We can't control her. We can't fix her. There's no magic solution. We have to let go. That was hard, but they did it. And it wasn't too long after that their daughter went into a treatment center, got sober, and is still sober to this day. Now, not everybody, it works out a happy ending like that. I get that. But I want to tell you that story because to me, it illustrates some very important things. So let me go back to what are some of the normal things that go on in a parent's mind or in a loved one's mind when the person they love is struggling with very bad decisions that are hurting them, either addiction, eating, whatever. Usually they try to use logic. And it's like, okay, why would a person do something that they know is hurting themselves? That doesn't make sense. If they know it's hurting themselves, then they'll stop doing it. So they must not realize that this is bad for them, that this is hurting them. They just need a proper explanation. They just need information. And so that's where a lot of parents go on the internet and they come up with all this information and they just try to convert their child. And they sit them down and they give them this long sermon of all the stuff their child needs to know, thinking that that is going to fix them. What they don't realize is you can't solve addiction just with information. The reason they're addicted is not because of lack of information. There's much, much deeper issues that are there. So then they go to the next thing. Okay, then what are the possible reasons why they're doing this behavior? So they come up with kind of three. One, must be a mental health issue. Must be something going on in their brain that they just need a medication to fix. Or they're born that way. So they're born with some gene that just takes them into addiction. So they look at a very medical kind of approach. Or secondly, they're just going through a bad time. If they get through this bad time and life gets easier, then they'll stop. So it's all the fault of their circumstances right now. Or it's because of their friends. They just got in with a bad crowd who are a bad influence on them. If I could just get them away from all those bad people, then they'll stop. So then they go, okay, what are they saying is the cure? The medical model, they need a medication. They need to go to a counselor who's just going to set them straight and fix them. Or we need to monitor them constantly so they don't hang around with those friends, so they don't do those activities. So we just need to develop this police state that makes sure they keep making healthy decisions and don't do things that hurt themselves. So sadly, out of their deep care for their child, many parents go down the road of the wrong solutions. They outsource that it has to do with all external problems or mental health or a genetic thing. So they just need a medical solution or a program and they'll be fixed. Or they go to the control. They just need to control this child and get them to stop. Started out with great love and concern, ended up with very unhealthy solutions. So I want to take you back. Why did the child get into these harmful behaviors, into addiction, into cutting, into eating disorders? What I want you to understand, and some of you may find this hard to hear, this might be new information that you haven't thought of, never even had it explained to you before, is sadly most of the models as to why kids do this today, over the last 25 years, the models that have been presented, we found that they're not that accurate. Often, why the child is doing this today, it goes back to stuff early in their life. And it's just been in the last 25 years that we've really got a clearer and clearer understanding of this. And so if I can explain this to you, it might challenge some of the stuff you believe. You might resist it. It's going to force you to realize that maybe your parenting were part of the issue, and it's not to blame and say that you're the problem and you're terrible. It's just to help you understand so that you realize that there's a better solution than the ones you're proposing. And we're going to get to that. So if we go back many, many years ago, and this could even be in infancy, that the child's basic emotional needs, could be their physical needs as well, but their basic emotional needs for acceptance, for connection, for authenticity, for validation, those weren't met properly. And the child didn't know how to get them met. They tried, they cried, they did different things, but they still weren't feeling connected. Their basic 12 needs weren't consistently being met, especially their emotional ones. And as a result, in the child, they had conclusion, it must be their fault. It went deeper than that. Nobody cared for them. It was their fault that they were not good enough. And so this whole shame things, I'm not good enough, nobody cares for me, I must be a zero, I must not be lovable, I must not have value. And then it went to, then I feel alone, I feel abandoned, I don't feel connected to anybody, so I don't feel like I belong anywhere, that I fit in. So you can see a ton of pain there in the child as these subconscious realizations begin to happen, conclusions begin to happen. So then they go, well, then I don't even like myself. I hate parts of me. I hate my body, my personality. I hate my emotional makeup. I wished I was so different. And so they have this ton of emotional pain that they cannot resolve. So it's constant and it's growing. Here's the solutions that they come up with. And there's kind of three types of solutions. So number one, if I have a perfect body and I'm really cute, then people give me positive attention. I get validated. So I need to make sure I have the perfect body. So that can lead to body image, eating disorders, anorexia. But I need to control that part because that's what gives me value. But then others, they go to, one day they're eating ice cream and they go, wow, this feels so good. My emotional pain goes, I got pleasure. My emotional pain has gone away. And so the answer to my emotional pain and to actually feeling some pleasure is ice cream. So now you start an eating disorder or a food addiction, or they find sex, or they find a video game, and it takes them out of their pain for a while. It gives them pleasure, and they go, I think I found the solution to my problems. And then they find drugs and alcohol, and it takes them totally out of their pain, out of their circumstances, and it puts them into pleasure they've never known before. And they go, I have found the perfect solution to all of my problems. My pain is gone. I have pleasure, but then it also makes me feel like I belong. It makes me feel connected to people. It makes me feel more outgoing. Parts of my personality I didn't like are disappear. I'm a fun person all of a sudden. This is a wonderful thing. This is what I've been looking for all my life. So what they didn't realize is that this, what looked like the perfect solution, didn't really solve the deep issues underneath, the unmet needs, the pain, the shame that had developed. And though it seemed to provide nothing but positive consequences, it was changing their brain. It was creating behaviors that were beginning to result in negative consequences. But the problem is those negative consequences didn't show up all in one day and the positive consequences totally disappear. It was all positive once, no negative, and then very gradually the negative increased, but they were still having lots of positive. Then there's more negative, little less positive, but still lots of positive. Then more and more negative and less positive, but there's still positives, and there was memories of how great it was. And so they hung on, and this process, this gradual process, could take years of them still having some positive consequences that keep them going back to that. But then what they don't realize is that it was changing their brain. So that pleasure was affecting the dopamine system, but it was giving way more dopamine than the brain was wired for. And so the brain was adjusting, and so they were getting less pleasure, less dopamine each time. So they were trying for more and more, which was changing the brain more and more until the brain got to a point where it needed that great amount of dopamine to feel normal. But it's happening so gradually that all these other changes are happening before they know it. Their brain is saying, I need this. Even though there's tremendous negative consequences, even though there's great pain. But then what happens if a parent comes along and takes the negative consequences away? The brain goes, oh, okay. No negative consequences? Yeah, not the greatest positive consequences, but at least there's no negative consequences because somebody keeps taking away. So this isn't a bad deal. I'll just stay here. And that's what happens with enabling, with caretaking. What is the solution that is needed today? Let me begin with, if you are hearing this and you go, yeah, I'm one of the ones that's in addiction, making terrible decisions, that is hurting me, hurting those I love, that is really ruining my life. So understand that you were good enough as a child. The lie that you believe that you weren't good enough is a lie. The reason you were neglected or abused, your needs weren't met, wasn't because you weren't good enough. It's because your parents had some issues going on. So get into a program that can start to heal those deep core wounds. Learn how your childhood affected you, how it shaped the way you cope in unhealthy ways. Look at the things your brain developed as solutions that seem to work but aren't working anymore. Then begin learning healthy tools, healthy ways of coping, but how to meet your needs that your parents didn't meet. And know that this could take 1 to 10 years. This is not a quick fix. This is a slow process. But for parents, let me come at this from two directions. Number one, I want to validate how difficult it is to be a parent to a child that is in self-destructive behavior modes, addiction, etc. What what I want you to see is the child is doing that because of all that unresolved pain, because of their complex trauma. But as they stay in all of that, they are creating in your family today a complex trauma environment because you don't know what to expect on any given day. You're walking on eggshells every day. You're in fear every day. So you, by having them in your life, are in a complex trauma environment. And your brain is looking for a solution. So your brain can go, because you're in a complex trauma environment, to the 4 F's: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So I want you to understand that the 4 F's often originally start out as positive. So what is a healthy fight? You set boundaries with that child. It's healthy, certain. No, I'm not giving you money. No, we're not going to allow this type of behavior in our house. That's healthy, but that can go unhealthy, and I'll get there in a minute. What's a healthy flight? I am going to avoid unnecessary conflict while I figure out what to do. I'm not going to take their bait and get drawn into their chaos. I will avoid certain things. Freeze. It's like the animal that plays dead for a while they figure out their next move. I am not going to respond here. I am not going to take their bait. And then fawning. I will try to appease them temporarily to calm them down. So we're not going to have a big outburst, but then I'm going to come with a healthy solution. So there are going to be times when I need to placate them, and that can be a healthy fawning. But all of those can go to unhealthy. The longer you're in a complex trauma environment, the more you can go to unhealthy. And so some parents go to full-blown fight mode. They go to the aggressive attempts to control their child, to lay down the law, to be, this is the way it's going to be, and take charge. And you're going to force them to change, and it gets this heavy duty power. Or you go to explosive rants. You're going to listen to me, and your anger you unleash on them, you threaten them, but then you don't do anything about it. You just explode in anger every time. Or you go to seeing them as the only problem and making it all that it's all their fault. It's just shaming them, judging them, putting it all on them. And so there's this underlying belief in the fight response that says, if I have total power and total control, then I can create this secure, loving environment where they're fixed, everybody is safe, nobody's going to be abandoned. It doesn't work, but it feels like it might. Then some go to full-blown flight mode. And so they go to worrying about everything, micromanaging everything, constant busyness, constant distractions, obsessing. And so they're obsessing in their brain about the problem constantly. So I want you to think about this, because what we found is obsessiveness is left brain dissociation. So I'm going to dissociate by escaping into obsessively thinking about something. That way I don't have to deal with me. I don't have to deal with the problem. I don't have to deal with the pain. I can just be, I'm trying to find a solution. Or they go into flight mode where you avoid the person, you avoid conflict, you avoid talking about the elephant in the room because that might lead to a fight. Many people in flight mode go to passive-aggressive type comments where they take little shots, they pout, they withhold love as they're in flight mode. They're still not willing to deal with the situation. They're just passive-aggressive. Then you can go to freeze mode. And that's, now you're isolating. You're not talking to your friends. You're not going out socially. You feel paralyzed. You feel helpless. You can't bring yourself to take action, so you escape into a fantasy world. You just watch the TV for hours. You're afraid of conflict. You're afraid the person will get mad at you. So you avoid everything. You shut down. You're actually afraid to stand up for yourself. You're afraid to stand up for your needs, for what is best. You're unable to enforce a boundary. You just turn inward. But some go to fawn. And fawn is you grovel. You people please. You love bomb your child. You be a doormat. You let them disrespect you, walk all over you, steal from you, lie to you. You clean up after them. You take away their consequences. You do whatever they want you to do. You beg them. You cry. It's just an ongoing groveling type of fawning. You're trying to find safety and love by merging with their demands. What you are saying is their needs. And so you are giving the power to the child. You're becoming the child. They're actually becoming the parent with all the power. But they're acting like the child. And so there's this confusion of roles that has taken place, but you are not willing to be the parent. You are groveling. So it's a subtle attempt. But if I give in to you, can I manipulate you? Will you then do what I want? Can I somehow control you? So you can go to all four of those, try all four, jump from one to the other. But most parents go more and more into those four. What I want you to realize is the more you're going into those four and you're staying in this complex trauma environment because it's not getting better, you end up just enabling them, you're caretaking them, is you're getting sicker, the situation is getting worse. It's not fixing anything. So what is a healthy response? Number one, recognize that you cannot change them or control them. So you got to give up control. If they're going to change, it's only because they want to change. That is so hard, but so important. Recognize that the more you try to control them, actually the more you usually lead to their rebellion, because they're not going to be controlled by you. So you are actually creating the very thing that you're trying to avoid. You're trying to control them and get them to conform. They're just rebelling more, which is the thing you're trying to prevent, that you fear. And they're going to go worse into their addiction just to pay you back. And so it's making the whole thing more unhealthy, and it's making you more unhealthy. So understand that the fear that's underneath all of this, and face your fear. Fear that they're going to die. Fear that they're going to hate you. Fear that they're going to abandon you. So fear's concern, and this is so important to understand, is short-term safety. I just need to make them happy now. I just need to make them like me now. I just need them to stop doing what they're doing now. That will fix the fear. Maybe short-term, but it's going to create even things worse long-term. So fear usually causes us to make bad decisions. Fourth thing, you have to set boundaries of what is healthy in this family, what is healthy in this relationship, what behaviors will I tolerate, what behaviors will I do, what is your responsibility, what is my responsibility, what are the consequences if you violate a boundary. You got to be willing to draw a line in the sand and enforce it. Don't say this is it, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and then you don't enforce it, you just move the line. So if you don't enforce a boundary, please understand that you're training people on how to treat you. You're training people that your no doesn't mean no. You're training people that they don't have to respect you or your boundaries, that they can walk all over you, that you're not going to stand up for yourself, you're not going to respect yourself, so they don't need to either. But then please take a course like our LIFT program, where you can begin to understand the underlying issues, what's driving them, how you've contributed to the problem, how you can change and become a healthier parent. So to me, the bottom line is damage has been done. Your child can blame you, but until they stop blaming you and accept ownership for their responsibilities, for how they have to change, they have to make good choices, they're never going to change. But you need to work on you. Your best way to help your child is to be willing to look at yourself. to be willing to see the things in you that are unhealthy, that things that were in your family dynamics that were unhealthy, that may have hurt or wounded your child, and change you. This can be so painful, but this can be so wonderful. Because as you grow, as your child senses that, your child sometimes is willing to give it another chance to connect. And your child finally finds the safety and connection they've been longing for all their life. So if you're going through what I've been describing, my heart goes out to you. It's heartbreaking stuff, but it's life for many people. And it's so easy to go about it all wrong. And so I hope this helps. I hope you're willing to give it consideration. If this has been helpful for you, please like, share, comment, subscribe to our channel. That means so much to us. Thank you again for being with us.